welcome back. Here's another tutorial video. This time we're going to be looking at an A-star response for the literature poetry. Now with the literature poetry, it's worth 3/5 of the marks on the day, and also it's worth bearing in mind that you've got two options. You can either write one essay where you compare 4 poems, or you can write 2 smaller essays where you compare 2 and 2 poems. Obviously that's down to personal preference, but one tip is that you can bury a poem you don't really know in the 4 poem question. So you can write about 2 of them really well, 1 of them quite well, and then 1 of them just kind of touch upon in and out. Whereas in the 2 and 2, you have to know all of them quite well. Obviously you might just prepare really well for it and then not have to worry about that, but the option's there if you so wish. Now before you go into this video, I recommend watching this video here, the poetry analysis 1 of 3. That's just the literature poetry grading sheet, so you know exactly what you're doing. And also Smile, if you've never come across Smile before. It's just a way of analysing the structure, meaning, images, language and effect in poem, and that might just make some of what we're about to go through a little clearer. So anyway, so this again has been marked by AQA, and we're going to go through why it got the marks it did. Obviously it's got full marks. It's 36 out of 36 as best I remember. Okay, Mother Any Distance, Havisham, The Laboratory and My Last Duchess all use first person persona, which gives us an insight into the personality of the speaker and with that their relationships. In Mother Any Distance, Armitage uses a variation on a sonnet form, talking about the structure straight away. Armitage uses a loose structure in his form which doesn't conform to the features of a classic Shakespearean sonnet, well referenced. For example, there is a very short 15th line which provides the climax of the poem. It parallels with the boy leaving his mother's home and shows how at the end of the poem the relationship is breaking apart. Okay, so the actual effect of that structure is being mentioned right there, and it's breaking apart. Havisham uses 4 4-line stanzas which are very uniform in line length. This could show how cold and calculated she's become as a result of her soured relationship after she was jilted by her lover. So it's talked about one structure point there, and it's about to talk about another one. The enjambment and caesura throughout the poem shows how, like the poem, she's become mangled and broken by her relationship. The 2 poems, so you can see actually there, they've just kind of mentioned one poem, so there was similarity, another poem, and then added to it, and then we're going to move on again. The 2 poems by Browning are both long, dramatic monologues. My Last Duchess has a very positive masculine rhyme scheme. So first thing that's actually mentioned about it is dramatic monologues. So obviously that tells us what type of writing it is, and obviously gives us an idea of what the poet intended by making them dramatic monologues straight away. And also starting to discuss the masculine rhyme scheme, which shows how the Duke of Ferrara is thinking positively about the Count's daughter, whom he wishes to marry in spite of the horrible fate his last wife has suffered. So that's really well cross-referenced, the positivity coming from the rhyme scheme, and it's actually showing the contrast with what's actually going in the poem there. So we know straight away in this dramatic monologue that the Duke is using, he is deluded, or already the actual structure. He's actually mentioned that. He said it without saying it. He therefore sees relationships in a very callous way. Okay, he's just said it. And the perfection of the rhyme scheme highlights the calculated attitude towards relationships, again mentioning the rhyme scheme and the effect. So it's mentioned maybe 6 or 7 points already about all the structure that's involved in the poems. In stark contrast, however, the speaker in the laboratory is very angry and jealous and overwrought with bitter resentment. Okay, so we've got our first piece of comparing there. However, contrasting, should I say. However, the laboratory is very angry and jealous and overwrought with bitter resentment. However, her attitude towards the act of poisoning she is about to do fills her with giddy excitement. This is shown by the positive rhyme scheme, consecutive lines, monosyllabic words to rhyme. She feels this way as she is jealous of the fact that her lover is having an affair. So every time it's linking back to just a basic premise, not telling us too much about the story, just a basic premise in the story to actually show why the character would be feeling that way, giving us the situation that they're in. And is humiliated by the fact that they aren't trying to hide it. Relationships, that's good as well. So she's actually got 2. That's obviously the subtle appreciation, the sensitive appreciation. Always talking about 2. So first of all, she's actually jealous and humiliated. So he's actually picked out 2 reasons why the lady in this poem is feeling like that. That's really good. Relationship has turned her to spiteful revenge, which she carries out with glee. The structure, back to the structure again, of laboratory shows the speaker's ability is to be calculated. just like the Duke. There are 12 stanzas of 4 lines each, marked by the number in Roman numerals. This shows how she's talking about a bitterly calculated revenge, good, and the ability to do such actions she has obtained by her intense anger, jealousy, and humiliation she's experienced because of the affair. That part's a little repetitive, but you're not going to lose any marks for that. Won't gain any though. The structure of Havisham is very similar. Okay, so there we've got a link to the similarity, as the 4 equal stanzas show the bitterly contrived contempt. Lovely writing, as after all there are many making this many runovers, sorry, I think, making this consistently feel forced. These 2 consistent structures show that women who have been turned away from emotions because of embarrassing rejection in relationships. The structure of My Last Duchess is one very long consistent stanza. This shows a seamless transition for the Duke between 2 supposedly committed relationships. Very good. So basically the idea there is just that the structure of the poem is that it doesn't break. So basically this guy is just moving on from women to women to women, or in this case just from one to another. He seemed to be a joyless marriage without so much as a blip in emotion. For the Duke, relationships are simply a matter of course and are easily disposable. So that's again linking to the theme, the ideas that are there. The Duke has complete control over his relationships, and this is in contrast to Mother Any Distance, in which the speaker leaves his family and his relationship with his mother is pulled apart. The looseness of the lives parallel the spool of tape measured held by the boy and his mother. You may notice there are a lot of there's very few quotations in here so far, but obviously that's because this question must have been on structure. As it twists and turns around the house, this is used as a metaphor, so there's some language analysis there, for the flimsiness of the connection of the relationship between the mother and the son as he flees the nest. Embedded quotation, well used. The 3 stanzas represent the 3 stages of the boy's ascent into adulthood as he rises up the house at the physical level and away from his mother's grasp in the relationship at the metaphorical level, and the last line shows the mother letting go of the tape measure and allowing him to reach the full level of independence. The language in this poem shows the mother's desperation to cling on to the relationship as her ultimate purpose in life to procreate and look after young is fulfilled when this is over. She pinches with her fingertips, good, shows the extremity, to the last 1/100th of an inch. This desperate feeling towards relationship is contrasted sharply. So although he hasn't mentioned it, it's actually quite clear from he's actually put it in before. It says desperation to cling to the relationship. That's what the language there is actually showing. To the last 1/100th of an inch. This desperate feeling towards relationship is contrasted sharply. Good comparison and contrasting again. With the Duke of Ferrera's casual attitude, he describes his ex-wife as painted on the wall as if she were alive. More language analysis. This shows that she is dead, and for him to be so offhand about it, a living wife and a painting to him must mean the same thing and be of equal value. Good. So that shows a lot into the character's mindset and his way of thinking. This shows that he is very egocentric. Good. One of the other themes, because obviously one of them is about egocentric men, and sees his relationship as one-sided. This is very evident in the curtain I have drawn for you, showing that he probably prefers his wife dead, as he can put a curtain over a picture whenever he pleases. This disturbing idea of a perfect relationship being ultimate power over a dead lover seems to be Havisham's idea of fulfilling her sexual passion. So that's brilliantly written and then very well linked into another poem as well. This control. So he's taken the concept here, the Duke actually has control, and then he's used that to link it into Havisham having the same thing. She wants a male corpse for a long, slow honeymoon. Again, the language is going to be analysed, showing that she would rather have a lover with whom she couldn't interact. The Duke wants this so his wife can annoy him or potentially have an affair, but for Havisham, it's so she can't be hurt by love. So even though they're doing the same thing, there's different reasons, and again, that's a very sensitive highlighting of that. This combined with the shocking idea of necrophilia shows an individual very much damaged by love and relationships. Again, one of the other minor themes. This is similar in some ways to how damaged the speaker in the laboratory has become. Brilliant linking again, albeit in a different way, well noted. Murder by poison has turned her on. She asked the apothecary to kiss me, old man, on my mouth, if you will. She is clearly twisted by jealousy, which has stemmed from relationships, as she's in love with someone else and she cannot find the old man attractive, but she's become very excited and aroused by the idea of revenge. That's good, a really good way of showing how she's losing it, and still linking it to the other poems, showing the effect that relationships can have on you. Relationships can affect people in different ways. It made Miss Havisham bitter to all men. It made a mother cling to the last dregs of a relationship that had served its purpose, and made a woman resort to murder to seek revenge on the woman who had stolen her lover. The Duke did have someone, his wife, murdered, but only as he wouldn't stoop to compromising. He's the sole true psychopath here, totally unfazed by emotions and indifferent to relationships. So the structure analysis there of that those 4 poems is absolutely fantastic. I looked at like so many nuances on so many levels, so it's really kind of hit all the criterion, and looked at the language analysis in the last third. So 2/3 of that essay really were just focused on structure, and then 1/3 was really on language, and then some of the images obviously mentioned within the language, and the effects were just constantly being referenced again and again and again, why this was important, what it shows, why it was important, what it shows. So obviously you'll take from that what you will, but it's worth noting how this student has actually put their sentences together, and maybe you'll look back over this, it's on Fronter, and find a couple that you'd like to try and emulate, because the writing there really is top drawer.